Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. We're back again with another incredible guest. Lynn, tell us all about her.
Yeah, since the day I met her, I feel like she's a sister from another mister type of person. So I'm so excited about Wendy Paige Sterling, who is joining us today. She is a bold leadership disruptor, empowering high-achieving women to break industry norms by tapping into their intuitive, yes, I can voice to create movements and drive impact. With a mission to align business with passion, Wendy helps leaders build not only successful, but deeply fulfilling lives and careers. A sought-after speaker and a two-time international best-selling author, Wendy's expertise has been featured on NBC, Good Day LA, and Daily Blast Live. She coaches ambitious disruptors to lead with authenticity, push past limits, and embrace challenges that ignite their true potential. Known for her no-nonsense approach, we know a little bit about that, Wendy guides clients through major life transitions, turning obstacles into growth opportunities. Her coaching combines spiritual awakening and heart-centered leadership, aligning business with core values for deeper success. As host of the influential podcast, The Power in the Pause, and creator of the global I Can movement, Wendy's impact inspires a global audience to harness their intuition and become pioneers in their own industry. Welcome, Wendy.
Thanks, ladies. I'm so excited to be here and to have another conversation with you guys.
I know, it feels like forever.
It does. And Lynn was on my podcast. So you guys, I love chatting with you guys. Circle. It always does, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit. I'm dying to know a little bit. How did you get started in this world? We've talked about it before, but let's talk to our audience. How did you get started on where you are right now?
That is a great question, and I will try to cliff note it for all of you guys as we, because I could spend 20 minutes on my story. But essentially, my journey into entrepreneurship really began about 8 years ago when the universe handed me quite a wake-up call, and that came in the form of realizing that my 16-year marriage was coming to an end, and the facade of my marital life was really that, a complete facade. I had been living so much of my life and my existence really based on who I saw through other people's eyes. And I was living through what I thought I should do, who I should be. And I was constantly putting other people ahead of myself, and I was living a people-pleasing existence. So what does that mean? It meant that I wasn't listening to my own voice. And even years before this night happened, where I realized that my marriage was over, and I came to figure out through my intuition that my now ex-husband was having an affair, I realized that my voice was talking to me, but I wasn't listening. And so what my separation and then ultimately what my decision to file for divorce really made me take a really hard look at myself in the mirror, which is so freaking hard. And it is something that we don't really love doing. And yet at the same time, it is, everything we avoid is exactly what we should be diving headfirst into, right? So my divorce really forced me to take a really hard look at myself and realize how much I had completely disconnected from who I was, and I had been doing it for decades. So while it was incredibly painful and unexpected, it also woke me up to the power of my own intuition, my own inner whisper, and ultimately what trusting myself really felt like. And so that's when I first jumped into the world of life coaching and helping women through their own divorces, like really helping them tap into seeing their divorce as happening for them, not to them, and really reconnecting with their inner strength to design a life that they loved. And then I had a second wake up call about 2.5 years ago that literally changed everything. In January of 2022, I lost my mom to ovarian cancer. And her passing was another pivotal moment in my life that once again pivoted my entrepreneurial career and the clients that I wanted to serve. And her passing really gave me a deeper sense of clarity on my purpose, and that it was so much bigger than just supporting women going through divorce. And losing her really taught me that life is now. Life is so incredibly short. And to stay stuck in what you're good at, or what everyone has come to know you as, to stay stuck in certain roles and expectations that don't align with who you are anymore. I think so many of us are so afraid to really step into our own evolution. And so when I lost my mom, it really gave me the courage to admit to myself that it was time to level up my work. It was time to really reveal what my truest gifts were. And that is exactly what Lynn introduced me as, is really helping high achieving women who do feel, even though they are, they may be killing it at work and they think that they're killing it at home. What's really happening is that they really do feel lost and disconnected. They're doing what might be easy, or is just a default for them. But ultimately, they're disconnecting from what really lights them up. And they've lost what that trust really feels like. And so really shifting out of divorce coaching and really moving into more intuitive entrepreneurship. Ooh, that's a hard one to say. Is really, it's really, teaching women how to really tap into their intuition to allow them to really create and be who it is that lights them up, instead of, staying in the status quo because it's just comfortable and it's what you know. But at the end of the day, it's not who you're here, and it's not who you're here to be, and it's not in alignment with your true purpose. So that's how I got here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things in there that that I want to dive deeper into. But I love, first of all, and we talk a lot about this, is you took something that was happening in your life, to you, for you both, and did a hard look and said, who am I? Where do I need to go? And what do I need to heal? Right? So where do I need to grow and evolve? And you also did that when your mom passed. And I know that there's some other layers to the story as well. And just really leaning into that. And it's fascinating because, like you said, life happens. We numb, we get lost, we put on the masks, we end up forgetting who we are unless we're intentionally digging back in, unless we're resetting ourselves intentionally. Like, it's a conscious effort. Even when you work on it so much, you still have to make it a conscious effort to realign, to reconnect, to reattach to who you are. So that way you're enabling your own growth. You're in the driver's seat of your own growth. And I think it's beautiful what you do with women, especially because you do work with a certain niche that are high achieving. Because those of us, I mean, I think we're all in that same bucket. Those of us, like, we have things to do and like we're doing it. Like we can get so lost in that bulldozing and that power as well, and lose touch of that. And I know Amanda talks a lot about, she often has to catch herself because she could easily be a bulldozer. And I use different terminology, but I definitely, like, I'm go, go, go. And it's so beautiful to do. So I guess my question is, sometimes it's hard for high achieving women, especially. I mean, men too. We're not poo-pooing the men. But to say, you know what, I need help. So I guess walk us through like what that conversation may look like, or like how that woman comes to say, you know what, it's time for me to reach out and have help, because I think some of us have a hard time with that part.
Oh, of course. I mean, how can we not, right? Here's the thing, right? Like this, if I'm speaking to a former version of myself, and maybe even who you guys are, those of you who are listening, is, you know, this is typically what I hear my clients say is top of mind for them, right? It's typically around like, whose dream am I actually living? Whose approval am I seeking, right? And many times that puts us on this path that just doesn't light us up. It feels really hard and it feels really heavy. And I find that it's also something where, we feel like we've almost like pigeonholed ourselves into this path. Maybe it's for financial reasons. Maybe it's because, you've worked your way up the corporate ladder and thinking about leaving that corporate ladder is daunting because, oh my God, you have this impression of I have to start over. But what I've come to learn the hard way, and what my clients understand as well, is that just because you're good at something doesn't mean that it's something that you're passionate about. And yet, under all this success, under all the badges, under all the certifications, under all the accolades, you still feel inadequate. You still feel not enough. And so what does that do? It perpetuates the hamster wheel, right? It's when you keep getting into perfectionism. It's when you keep overworking. It's when you're sacrificing for God knows who, but at the end of the day, you're sacrificing yourself in the process, right? And so many times it's so hard for us to make the jump because we don't know what's on the other side. And I think that, we allow mistakes from our past to define what could be possible moving forward. And so, there's a big thing that I talk about, and actually, I don't know that I've ever really brought this into this type of a conversation, but, a question that I always ask my clients is like, when are you going to forgive yourself?
Mhm.
When are you actually going to say to yourself, like, it's okay that I've made these decisions up until now? You get to stand in the power of knowing that you can make a change at any given time. But the forgiveness piece, I find, the self-forgiveness piece, I find, is actually really hard for us high achieving women, because it's almost like we have to admit to ourselves that we made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that we made a mistake, it's that we did what worked for who it was that we were then, but it doesn't mean that it works anymore. And so the forgiveness piece that I talk about with this is all around how it is that you're judging yourself. So the way that I teach self-forgiveness and how I bring it into this type of a conversation is really around like, when are you going to forgive yourself for judging yourself as sticking it out, doing what was expected of you, showing up the way that you did, maybe putting work before your kids because you didn't think you had a choice at the time, right? And so I really would encourage everybody to like do a little bit of self-reflection around that. Like, what is it that you get to forgive yourself for in this moment in time? And how is it that you want to do things differently? How is it that you want to show up differently? What is it that you want to do? What is it that is going to light you up at the end of the day? What is it that you really want? Because at the end of the day, if you're anything like me, you want control. You want control over the outcome. You want control over everyone, everything in your life. But I'm here to tell you, and so sorry to burst your little bubble, but like, control is an illusion. You have control over yourself. You do not have control over anything else. You have control over your reactions. You have control over your decisions. You have control over your thoughts. You have control over your feelings. And yet you're constantly blaming the world. And so the self-forgiveness piece I find is super important as it relates to really releasing control, because if you don't forgive yourself for, whatever judgments you had, you're not going to be able to release control. You're going to stay in this existence of living a facade, which, I mean, I'm guilty of. I lived a facade for 2 decades, until I woke up and I decided to make a change. And so, I would really invite everyone to not see it as like you're in an identity crisis. It's really just your identity's there. It's calling to you, and it's just a matter of you giving it room to breathe and to come to life.
I love that. I know Amanda's unmuting. The forgiveness part is huge. And you didn't use this word, but I definitely want to plug this word in there about the choices and looking, and it's taking responsibility too for your action.
100%.
Like your part in it, because
100%.
people you kind of reference like blaming it on others or the world, and it's not. And I love those 2 questions that you asked, which anybody could ask themselves, is like, whose dream am I living and where am I at with that? Like, to really get down and dirty and like ask yourself, where am I at and whose dream is it mine or is it somebody else's? And just kind of that reality check. I love that. Sorry.
Yeah, we've definitely spoken about that. No, we've spoken about that before, about this idea that often as you hit this level of achievement, you're checking off boxes because everybody told you you're supposed to check off these boxes. And then when it comes down to all the boxes are checked and you're still not fulfilled and you're still not happy and you're still not getting what you want out of whatever situation you're in. And then you do have to make those hard reflections on your own life and your choices and say, I checked off these boxes, but they were never that important to me in the first place. They were important to this person or to the society or to my sister or whatever. And that's a really, really hard thing to realize as you've achieved so much and everyone's look how much you've achieved. You're so successful, all this. And then to be unfulfilled in that success is really hard, I think, particularly for people in a high achievement space, because you worked so hard and it kind of comes down to nothing. You worked hard for nothing because it doesn't mean anything to you. So it's nothing. And then that will, of course, the control issue. We all know I have control issues. So I just think that it all trickles down into how you see the successes of your life and then how you project what's going to come after that and how you're going to turn around from that space of, unfulfilled successes. Like, what happens next? Where do you go from there? And that's a really hard thing to come to terms with, and to do the deep dive on that yourself and then come out of it without the victim mentality. For sure.
I do want to add before Wendy jumps in is also like at that level, you're numbing yourself. So it's not even like you aren't fulfilled in it. It's that you're not even sometimes acknowledge, especially for high powered people, you're not even acknowledging that you're accomplishing that. Like, it's just like next. And it's like, you're not taking a breath and being present in it. And I know that there's kind of a variation in a scale of them, but that's the other side of the scale, that there's lots of women. And Wendy, I know you work with women kind of on both sides in the spectrum of even those who don't like take the opportunity to look and say, you know what, I did do this. Holy crap. Instead, they're in, a lot of times, I think they're in survival mode.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And part of that is feeling the weight of expectations, of the expectations that everyone has on us, right? And what I come to find is that so many of us, we suffocate ourselves by placing other people's expectations plus our own on our chests, right? So the expectations are self-imposed and they're externally imposed. And so imagine, how much breath you have left. Very little. When this is like, it's like an elephant sitting on your chest. So it's really hard when you've got all these expectations on top of you. How is it that you are supposed to do anything? Like, no wonder you're exhausted. No wonder you feel completely disconnected. No wonder you are wondering how the heck you got here. And I think that this idea, Amanda, I'm the same. Like I'm a type A personality. I love being in control, and it's something I work at every single day, you guys. It is a muscle I work every single day, right? And I know that the idea of letting go feels terrifying. How can it not, right? Especially when you think that you have control, but it's the same thing, right? As I was saying before, it's this whole illusion. And so I think it's really important that we readjust our expectations of ourselves, that we stop letting other people's expectations of us infiltrate our world. Because, one of my favorite quotes, and I believe that it's Rachel Hollis who said something to the effect of this, which is that like other people's opinions are none of your business. And yet we actively make them our business. Right. And so one of the things I always tell my clients is that, like, who said that, like, you have to even listen to what people say? Like, it never has anything to do with you. It has everything to do with that. Right. Like, when I was getting divorced, it was like, oh crap, divorce is contagious. Oh, that must feel like I'm going to say anything and everything to make sure that this doesn't infiltrate my world. Or like when I tell people my mom passed away, like, it's almost like, oh my God, this reality of like, oh my God, this could be me, like sets in. And then everything that comes at you is a projection of other people's fears. And so imagine like all of that stuff being on top of you. Like, I get that it can be super hard, and I get that it's, it's hard to really, reframe and shift perspectives, but you're the one who has control. Coming back to control, like you're the one who has the control over that. So I would invite you to go inward and admit to yourself, like, how's that working for you? Right. And I love that you brought in the piece of responsibility. Like I always say, you get to take 100% of your role's responsibility. Like you take 100% of the 50% responsibility that you had in X, Y, or Z, right? Like I always say, yeah, my ex-husband cheated on me. And I am also part of a marriage, right? So he has to live with that. That's on his half. And I get to live with my half of like, I had to take 100% responsibility for my 50% of my marriage falling apart. Right. And so I think so many times we just want it's so much easier to blame other people because that's less control that, it's like, it's less that you have on your plate to deal with. Right. And at the end of the day, like I always say, like the shortcut is through. Like you gotta swim in it in order to get through to the other side. Like if you're gonna circumvent and make excuses and go all the way, like, oh my God, you're gonna be in no man's land forever. So how's that serving you? Instead of like
when you're in
diving
the
in.
situation all the time,
Yes.
not doing
Yes.
it, like if it's the same broken record over it, and I know we've spoke about this, and even Amanda and I've spoke about this a cajillion times, is I know you work with ladies who you don't have to be at that, like at that breaking point to get help. Like you don't have to have something traumatic happen to you or something life-changing. Like the day is now that you can take control of your life, reclaim your intuition, and absolutely start walking your own journey and working on your own journey. And I think that that's really important to note here, because there's oftentimes where people will just put up with it, like keep bulldozing until something big happens. And I've shared my story many times, but like cancer was a huge wake-up call for me, and to be able to like change things. And then there are other points in my life also that were just like a bit more of a nudge to realign myself with that, with my purpose and with who I am. And so, but you don't have to wait, ladies. Like you don't, or anybody listening to the podcast, even the men that are listening, like we put our lives on hold for the potential and possibilities, or the excuses, or the rationalization that, oh, well, I can fix it, or things will change, or let me just get through this one thing, or whatever it is. Before you know it, 5 years later, you're still singing that same story. And like, okay, like you've kept yourself here. You've continued to paint the picture. So WTF.
I think that's true, because it's so easy to put it off till, oh, well, when things calm down a little bit, after Christmas, once the Christmas season is done, oh, well, like taxes are coming, like once taxes are done, I can hunker down to that. And oh, well, once the kids are out of high school, then I'll do this. And it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs until you look back and you've missed out on all those opportunities. And then you're kicking yourself and wondering why you aren't where you want to be because you let all of that opportunity pass you by for a time that was going to be more convenient, or a circumstance that was going to be more convenient, or when finances were more plentiful. And all of those what ifs and possibilities that you're waiting for really don't exist. They don't. There's no way to say for sure that next week will be less busy, or that when the kids are done with high school that you will feel more comfortable with this, or when when you reach this milestone financially that you'll feel more prepared to do something. None of those things are guaranteed. And setting yourself even up for that false expectation can really throw a wrench in your plans and your progress and your whole life and how you plan to live it, your business too, all of it. And I think it's so easy to do. And I hear so many people, I'm sure all three of us have heard many people say, oh, well, it's just not the right time. Like when this falls in place, like when everything align, when the stars align, then it'll be meant to be. Like, well, good luck with that. They're not aligning for everybody. Not everybody, the stars aren't going to align miraculously for every single person at some single point, just so you can do this one project. You've got to make that happen.
Well, so you bring up something super important. I'm going to put the word out there, right? Is like, we are our own worst accountability partners. And so the big reason why clients come to work with me, and I'm sure with you guys too, is the accountability piece is so crucial because we can't hold that for ourselves. And it's hard for us to see what it is that we are too blind to see, right? It's like that story, and this has come up so many times. It's such a good story, but it's like that story where there's a man who's like drifting out in the middle of the ocean and he prays to God to like send him help. And here comes a ship and the ship is here. And the guy's like, I'm waiting for God to send me help. Okay. God sends like a plane and he's like waves the plane by and it's like, oh, I'm waiting for God to send me help. And then the guy dies. He goes up to heaven. Is like, God, where were you? He's like, I sent you a ship. I sent you a plane. Like the solutions are literally right in front of you, right? Like, we're here, and it does take an awakening and a level of accountability that you get to admit that you need. I mean, this is very much what our high achievers know about themselves, right? It's like, I know you don't need the help, but imagine what having help, how it can help you, how it can accelerate you. Like you can sit here and stay here, like you were saying, Amanda, it's like, oh, when the kids graduate, oh, when this, oh, when that, right? Versus like, imagine if in 3 months it's done because someone's done this before you and has the like cliff notes. Like how much greater would that, like sign me up, like where do I pay? Like I'm all in on that, right? And it's not about, you know, I believe in listening to your intuition. I've had many conversations with people where I'm like, you know what? It's a not now, right? It's not a no, it's a not now. And then it's like in 2 weeks, I'm like, okay, I'm a yes, right? And I understand that process, but these processes of like in 10 years when my kids graduate, that'll be the better time, right? And it's why I'm so passionate about teaching people, because we're all born with it, how to tap into their intuition and to know what it feels like for them and to take baby steps to be able to trust it and to know that based on where you feel it in your body, that is your inner truth telling you it's a yes, it's a now. It takes courage. I get it. It's hard to trust that and to know the difference. And once you practice it and you know what it feels like for you, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, there's two things in there. First of all, I mean, pretty profound is that if you're not tapping into who you are and your purpose, in my humble opinion, there's part of you that's living a lie. And so if you're done living a lie, like it's time for you to like kind of come out of that. And it's hard to admit. But, I often use the analogy because we're all high achievers on this call and, high performance and high impact and blah, 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 all of that stuff, doers, etc. And I often use the analogy of like, listen, I tell people what to do all day. I'm in control. I'm doing all of this, like control within my own capacity. Like I've done the work. So not in some of the other capacities. It's what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, I can go to the gym and work out on my own, which I do, but I hire a coach because I'm tired of telling people, I'm tired of like having to figure everything out on my own. And I can tell you like so I go to the gym, I get my butt kicked by somebody else. I don't have to think. I can actually sink into who I am. And essentially that's what we all do, but that's especially what you do is like for those high performance who, yes, you can do it all. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. And that like sinking into being able to like have somebody else hold that space and help you carry that and be there and understand you at that level, it is priceless because you're able to breathe in a different way, which makes you a hell of a lot more capable and successful and more high achieving in a directive way that is unstoppable because it's more in alignment with who you are and the path that you're destined to be on or the path that you're really choosing for yourself. And so I always love that analogy because yeah, I tell people what to do all day long. I run my life all day long. I just want to sit back and allow somebody else to direct me. And I know that that's what we do for our clients, but I also know that that's also what you do, especially when it comes to high achieving women. We operate differently. And this is no shade at any, we're just aware of how we operate versus those who aren't. And it's not one's better than the other.
No, and to each their own.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it's funny. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today and, and I was saying to her, I was like, God, I'm like the way that you're able to hear what I'm saying and you like so succinct in wrapping together everything that's coming out of my mouth right now. Like you just like summed it up so beautifully. And it's like, I knew what she said, but she just heard it in a way that she was able to just like funnel, like it's like this funnel, right? Like she was able to just funnel it down for me. And I was like, oh my God, like you just saved me an hour of like brainstorming and journaling and, and, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm so good at this. At helping my clients with this, and it's still a practice for me. And I have a coach. Like I work with someone because I know that she holds me accountable. I know that she hears things that I like the way she's able to do it. I'm just like, my God, how do you do this? Right. And meanwhile, I'm like, I do this for my clients. Why can't I do it for myself? And it's just because we just can't, and it's okay. And it doesn't mean that I'm incompetent, or it doesn't mean that I'm not a good coach. And by the way, if you're working with someone who is not being coached, like I have a very strong opinion about this. Like every coach has a coach because we know that we are an evolution of ourselves and we are always steps ahead of our existing clients. So if your coach doesn't have a coach, like to me, that's a red flag because we're always working on ourselves, right? And you've got to want to invest. It is an investment in yourself. Like what better investment is there? There isn't, in my opinion. I'll double down on me all day, any day.
As we should.
100%. I definitely think there is absolutely no better investment than investing in yourself. There's no better payoff. There's no better turnaround. Like it's 100%. I agree with you. And absolutely all three of us have coaches. I've had coaches for years in all different things and not just in one modality in my life. I have multiple coaches who help me through whatever it is, even things that I am, as you said, things that I am capable of doing. I was a trainer for 20 years and I still will hire someone to train me, not because I don't know what to do, because I need whatever is whatever I'm stuck on. That's the thing you need to train a coach for, whatever that coaching looks like. If I'm stuck on hitting 8 figures, or if I'm stuck on, learning to drive a car, or I'm stuck, whatever it is, that's the thing you need a coach for. If you're stuck, even if you do it yourself, if you're stuck, that's where you need a coach. If you want that growth, that's where you need a coach.
It's the coach, even if you're not stuck, they can see the forest through the trees. They can see where you're holding yourself back. And and be able to help you tap into things that you're not necessarily like consciously aware of. You might be subconsciously, or call you out. Like all three of us are caller outers. Like we have no problem saying to our, well, not just our clients, being like, babe, you need to check yourself. and I think that that's also what makes us special too. And Wendy, what I love what we love about you is that, and again, like attracts like, but that you are that person, and not that you're being rude. You're just calling it how it is. You have no filter. You're unapologetic about, your own journey, which I think is beautiful. And as women, we tend to apologize for our existence, for this, for that. It's kind of ingrained in us. And to be able to lean into that unapologetic, not in a rude way, but an unapologetic self. So that way you're not making excuses, you're not holding back. Like, to me, that's what that means. And you're able to help others do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, like, if you want someone who is going to give you the kick in the ass that you know that you need and you can't give yourself, like, sign me up. Like, that is my secret sauce, right? Like, I call myself a bold, tough, loving coach because I am not here to be your best friend, but I swear we will love each other until the end of time, right?
100%.
And it was interesting. Also, one of the same conversations I was having this morning, like this word kind of came in for me, and I was like, this is exactly who I am. And I see this in both of you guys as well, just knowing what I know about each of you is this word fierce. And some people may come at that and be like, ooh, that's like a jagged edge, right? Like that feels like really sharp. And I'm hoping to soften the edge of that word for everybody. But, to me, being fierce is really somebody who takes a stand. It's really about somebody who takes a stand no matter what. It's someone who is, fiercely passionate, fiercely loving. Like I am, like, I want things more for my clients than they probably do for themselves, right? And at the end of the day, you've got to want it as bad as I want it for you, right? And that's where this fierceness energy, I feel like, is something that's like been really important to me and how it is that I choose to show up. Because at the end of the day, like, Lynn, when you read my bio, like I don't know about you guys, but like, I'm not here to stay in the status quo. I'm here to ruffle some feathers. I am here to disrupt. I am here to build my own goddamn tables. But guess what? You are welcome to join my table. It is a very inclusive place. I'm just tired of joining other people's tables. I am tired of joining other people's expectations of me or what they think. I don't fit in boxes, right? And so I feel like there gets to be a more conversation around this. Like, why are we so afraid to like really stand in our power? And I know you both are not, because clearly, we're simpatico people, but it's like, when are you going to be ready to shed I always say it's like, take off the invisibility cloak, like Harry Potter fans out there, like take off that cloak and start revealing the beauty that is you. Don't be ashamed of who it is that you are, because your people are waiting for you. They're literally waiting for you to open your mouth, to launch a program, to make a career shift. They're waiting for you. And if you believe in yourself the way that I'm sure deep down exists within you, so will other people. So anyways, I'm off my soapbox now,
No,
but that's
we love it. When you were talking about fierce, I know there's a lot of quotes around this, but Amanda and I have been called many things in our lifetime by ourselves and by others. So, but with that being said, that fierceness, it kind of like hustle. And Amanda and I have a couple podcasts on hustle and different things like that. Listen, at the end of the day, if you think fierce is a bad word, then you're not our client. Like, at the end of the day, you're just not our client. Neither here nor there. But if you think it's that whole thing. Like, if you think I'm too much, like, okay, then I am for you. So keep it stepping. Like, good luck. And that's okay because we're not the right fit. So, but
Right.
don't throw stones at me just because you can't hold the capacity of who I am. Like we're just not in alignment, and that's okay. But the second you start throwing stones, we're gonna have a different conversation.
Or you'll be deleted from my email list. Yes.
For real.
I mean, for real, that happened this morning. I'm just like, wow, I am not your punching bag today. So we're just gonna part ways today.
Well, we know we're coming up to the end. Is there anything else, the last little nugget that you want to leave the audience with about anything?
I mean, I'm going to repeat myself if you don't mind, because I think it's a really important point, and that is have the courage to build your own table. I'm going to invite you to think about how joining others has been serving you. And maybe it has up until a certain point. I get it. I've joined other people's tables, and it is what has enabled me to realize that I don't fit in at other people's tables. And so I have had the courage to create my own, not just once, not just twice, but understand that just because you start your own table doesn't mean that you're keeping other people out. It actually means that you're attracting your people to you. So I invite each and every one of you listening today to trust your intuition, to trust yourself, to take just one step, even if it's a step of like having awareness that, oh, I think this is fear, not my intuition. Great. That is a step. And I'm super, super proud of you. Maybe it's you're thinking about what you want for lunch today. And in your gut, you're like, God, I really want some nachos, but I should really have a salad. Well, the nachos are your intuition, maybe. And the salad is your fear, right? So I would just invite you, everything in moderation, guys.
Yeah.
But I would just invite you to start with something really small and learn how to trust yourself so that you can start building that intuitive table and getting like attracting your people to you. So that's my last bit.
Yes.
I hope you realize that from now on, whenever my intuition says nachos or pizza, I'm just going to go with it. Salad be damned. And I'm going to say that you told me to. So from now on,
I do love a good
That's on
nacho.
you.
It's hard to find a good nacho.
Right?
well, when you
Well,
find
where
it, though,
you are, I don't
Well,
know
yes,
how you
in
find
Thailand.
nachos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's great
In
nachos in
Texas.
LA.
In
Oh,
Texas,
yeah,
there's
Tex-
great
yeah,
nachos. Anyway, we
Tex-Mex.
digress.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, now I want nachos. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I guess we all know what we're having for dinner tonight, folks. I hope all of you at home are also going to have nachos tonight. But Wendy, where can people reach out to you, connect with you? Where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, I would love for you guys to connect with me across social media, Wendy Paige Sterling. You can also check out my podcast, which is called The Power in the Pause. And then if you guys want to check out my website, where my podcast is also available to listen to, my website is wendypaigesterling.com, and Paige has an I in it, Paige. So thank you guys so much. This has been, you guys are awesome. I wish we all lived
love
closer.
you.
We could go have drinks now. It would be super fun.
And
Trying
nachos.
to get you to Thailand.
And nachos, margaritas and nachos.
Yes.
I do know a really good margarita place, or Linda's in Thailand. So I feel
Right
like
up the
we're
road
already
from the house.
halfway there. It's right away from their house. So just
Yeah.
saying, Wendy, when we see you in
February.
Bangkok,
Bangkok this February.
February.
all right.
Anyway.
Well, of course, all that information will be in the show notes for you. So just keep scrolling and you will find all of Wendy's information. Wendy, it has been a pleasure. It always is to speak with you.
Thank you. You guys too. Love you guys.
All right. Make sure that you are following Wendy, hitting subscribe to her podcast, taking a look, and absolutely let her know what you pulled out of this podcast today. Until next time.
Get after it.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.